We'll record now. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Gan Furukawa. I'm the founder of Supermarketers, which is a B2B content agency driven primarily by AI. And today I want to cover how we are creating content that doesn't sound like AI slop. And you've probably seen, if you're using content like, for example, in Relay or Claude, you want to add some context that goes in your beginning instructions or prompts, your system prompts. But today I want to cover basically how you can do this. And this is essentially the foundation, I think, to creating content at scale, so you can do it on a more consistent and scalable basis and have an expectation that at the output, you would get a piece of content, whether it's email, blog, YouTube script, that actually sounds like the stuff that you or your company are putting out. And so I think that this is maybe a little bit of time up front, but that time manifests so much better in terms of not having AI slop on the back end that you have to spend a lot of time revising. And yeah, for those that are fearing that there is the output is AI-ish, ideally you would be able to incorporate some of your own voice or style, your structures and frameworks, the things that matter to you as a human. And then that becomes essentially like the brain or the foundation for all subsequent content. So I want to, here, let me just share my screen and put some stuff together. I will show kind of at a high level what this is, and then I'll use my own example, or if any of you want to share a URL or example. But at the end of this, you'll have the prompts so you can work from it yourself, as well as a list of words that would be a foundation for you to avoid some of these AI slop. In the fast-paced world of blah, 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 M dash, it's not X, it's Y, all these things that you're you don't want to come up in your content. This will be a foundation, and you can incorporate this essentially into any subsequent content that you're putting out. So to start, yeah, so the problem is essentially this term of AI slop. And you know it when you see it. In fact, I've seen some newspaper clippings where it's at the end, it's would you like me to elaborate more on this? The journalists literally copy and pasted from AI. And that is not what we want. So the first step, I think, is essentially building out what is a brand brain, or what I call a brand brain. And so if you've done this exercise kind of as a marketer, or if you are a freelancer or agency and you're starting with a new client, this is kind of the bread and butter of how you kick off the onboarding, how you understand what they're covering. And so it would be the brand identity, their ICP, their product itself, what the promise is. So there are essentially 12 main things that are most important to getting the best output. And this is something that we could go through the questionnaire. And so I do have a list of questions, but really if we have AI, why don't we leverage it, right? And so you can do it with as little as just the URL that you're using and maybe a LinkedIn profile if you want to do something for your own personal brand. So I will get to the prompt in a second. I personally like Claude. I think that Claude, specifically at this moment, end of February, Opus 4.6 is kind of the de facto best output. In my opinion, I switched from OpenAI 5.2, ChatGPT 5.2, but it changes so quickly. However, in this demo, we'll be focusing on Claude, as well as maybe some of the parts of Claude Code, which can help scale this out further. So is there a URL or site that anybody wants to drop into the chat? Or if not, happy to use my own example. Okay, not seeing. Okay, let me just show you what I have here. But first, we can go through what the brand the brand generator prompt is, a brand brain. So like I mentioned, it's basically 12 different inputs. And so if you've seen the high level best practices of prompt engineering, you're going to give it a role. So brand strategist AI, the steps of here's what you will expect. And it will be 12 different outputs or 12 different phases that we're going to go through. And the output will be a comprehensive brand brain output. So like I said, the only two inputs that we're going to need for this are a URL, and I chose to add my LinkedIn profile. We don't need to do this. You don't need to add LinkedIn if you don't want to. And you don't even really need to have a website. If you are, say, a freelancer and you're just starting out, why don't you just talk into the prompt or text, write it out. One thing that I like is, just a side note, is whisper flow. So I might be using that where I just hold down function, and then I can talk and it transcribes quite well. But I literally copied the prompt that we just saw. And it is these 12 sections. And it took, it does not take a long time, a few minutes. And the output, sorry, one other thing is just general best practice is asking the LLM for additional questions or context, because there might not be something, or there might be something that I'm missing. But if I am asking or prompting for ask me any other questions that would be helpful, then I get some subsequent questions. So the other questions that I have, and by the way, this is in my existing account, hence like I already know a lot about supermarketers. But I think regardless, you will get a good brand brain output. So I was asking, okay, in terms of voice and style, LinkedIn posts, any other writing samples that are good. If you don't have a portfolio of writing samples, because ultimately this is based on your own writing style and what an ideal is, you can just talk into the LLM chatbot, use whisper flow, or just write out something, or just use a thought leader, influencer, or brand that you like, and that would work as something that that could work to kind of like capture what your ideal structure and output is. This is for me specifically, like, different offers that I have. How should those be named? How do they evolve? And then what is the scope? Should this be for my brand or personal? So what I did is I just found some of the posts that I knew that I liked the output of. So for example, this is one. This is one for AirOps that was written. And so I thought, this was one that captured everything that I would want. The voice, the tone, I was happy with this output. So I used this and then had multiple different AirOps examples, as well as some of the other LinkedIn posts that I thought were good. So I included some LinkedIn examples. I use a hashtag just because that's one way to delineate, make it easier for the LLM to parse through this big block of text. And then that was it. And then it went off to the races. There were a few other questions here in terms of service tiers, banned words that I did add. And yeah, this was super quick to revise or just clarify. And then here's the ultimate reveal, what the brand output is. And I think that this is so incredible that this is something that like literally would have taken probably to this level of detail. I don't know if people would have done this. Such a detailed repository of all the things that I have done or what I'm currently doing. And you can see that like for the brand identity and the positioning, I just think that this is a really helpful thought exercise, as well as like almost a look into the mirror of what the internet says about you, and have you done a good job historically of putting yourself out there or positioning yourself where the LLM does its research and provides you with a lens with which the world sees you. So remember, this is just like the URL of what I did and my LinkedIn profile. And it really does narrow down who I'm targeting, what my elevator pitch is, what my offer is. And so this is like kind of like section one, just like the overview. Uh, next section are some of the offers specifically that I have. So think about how this would be helpful if you are like, create a LinkedIn content calendar and make one of those posts specific to the offer, or tie in the post to the problem that I'm solving and the offers that I have. And then think about like, well, let's make sure that we are addressing the problems and the goals of who our ideal customer profile is. So once you do this brand brain exercise, you have a very detailed view of who they are in terms of the roles, the challenges, what they tried in terms of alternatives, their psychology, or their psychographics. And all of this stuff comes kind of like almost implicit with this brand brain. This was the competitors, which was something that it did ask me, but there were a few, like Omniscient Digital, for example, that appeared based on its own research, brand point of view. So we can go through, there are the full 12 section output. Now this will take you, I think, 80% of the way there. I don't think it's intended. It's not ideal that you're just going to copy and paste this into your next Claude project or anything else. But I think it's a fantastic foundation. And then it requires a little bit of review on the human end. Does this align with actually what I want to put out? And I think where you might want to spend more time in terms of the refining it to making sure that it is specific to you is the writing style, the words, because that's really where you will get the best output, or you will, we have these tendencies and styles that we like. And if we are able to communicate that and get this in once, then again, it will last and scale as every time we're interacting with this large language model. So the banned words, I think this is like one of the more important nuances is a vocabulary. And the more and more I consume content online now, it is very obvious what is an AI output. And so there's like some nuanced patterns, everything might come in 3, or the rhetorical questions, or the M dashes, of course, the words. These are things that we want to be careful of. This, I think, will be important if you have a living document of what these banned words and phrases are. I'm going to send this to everyone here later, but I do have a list that I started here. That was a long prompt, of these words and phrases. So you can just copy and paste this, revise it, add anything else that you have on your own computer, and then just continue to add to this, because it's never going to be a one and done deal. I think one of the most important things is to continue to refine and improve and give feedback, because that's how you will not have to make the same revisions over and over. Okay, so we saw the prompt, we saw the exact output. Now I think one of the things I want to cover is like, now what? Like, what do we actually do with this once we have our brand brain? And there are a couple of different ways that you can use this. So one is in your Claude project, and this does not need to be specific to Claude. This is kind of like LLM agnostic, but basically, like in these large language models, you will have here. Let's go. Sorry, I'm going to open a new window here. So in a large language model, you can just start a new project. So just go to projects, and then new project, and we can just do demo, whatever, create it, and then you'll upload files. So as part of this, so anything related to what you're doing for this particular project, let's say it's Gen's personal content, or maybe we're just doing supermarketers in general. We would upload this brand brain output as a file here. So you'd upload it, you'd add it to Google Docs or a Markdown file, export it, and then upload it here. And then anytime going forward, you can make sure that it is being referenced and you are following the guidelines, it knows the ICP, it knows the buying triggers, the psychographics, all these things that we got from the brand brain will be here in persistence because we're uploading it as a project setting. Now, the other way, I think, so that's kind of like a nice, relatively easy way to start, is to adding it to your Claude project. The next way is if you use Claude Code. Now, Anthropic has done a nice job of kind of like removing the technicalities or the challenges of Claude Code and adding it to their desktop app. So at the top here, you'll see there's chat, cowork, code. We can go to Claude Code here, and you can make sure it's in a local file, and you select a folder. You're going to be creating a folder just on your desktop, and we can call it like my supermarketer's work, and then add that that brand brain output in that folder as a text file. But it might make a little more sense if you can actually see it visually. So Claude Code runs in, it can run in Cursor or any IDE development environment. So this is Visual Studio Code, and this is essentially like a folder. So the same folder, if it were supermarketer's work on my homepage or desktop, is basically this folder here. And where you'd add your brand brain, kind of like the brains, the equivalent of the system prompt is this claude.md file. So this is where you see here we have like build brand brain. There are different prompts, there are different commands. So this is every time that Claude Code fires up, it references this claude.md file to understand what tools it has, what its capabilities are, what its integrations are. And so you would add this brand brain here, and you can literally just like type in, start a Claude chat here and type in, hey, add this brand brain as a folder into my claude.md file. Or it appears here, I wanted to make it almost like something that I could do automatically. So this is essentially taking that same template and framework of the 12 steps of the brand brain and then making it a command. So if I add the URL and the LinkedIn URL, just like I did before, I can actually create it automatically in Claude Code because I've created this command here in this brand brain folder. So that's one way that you can automate it. And then once you have it created, you can just add it to your own Claude Code. Claude Code has the folder that is Gen's brand voice, brand brain. And then it's kind of like running persistent through all output. And then the last way that you would use it is really just anywhere. It would be AirOps. It would be relay.app. It would be Gemini. It doesn't matter, but as long as you have that tech stack, that's the most important thing. A couple of things where it gets where you could fall off course with the brand brain is, and this is, I think, not as much of a problem if we have an LLM doing the work, but if you've ever onboarded into a new like writing tool, I used to run marketing at a writing tool. Part of it was the onboarding, like what is your brand voice? What is your ICP? What is like some of your best examples? That's like kind of cumbersome to create. It's much better now that you can just like use a URL and the web search functionality. But being vague is a challenge there because LLMs do best when there are concrete, specific examples to learn from. So if you're saying like, be punchy and specific, like not as helpful as if you're uploading an example of what you define as punchy and specific. So that kind of like feeds into another mistake, which is skipping references. That's why having, the best examples of what I think is good defining that myself and uploading that is one way to ensure that you are getting the structure, the framework, the words that define you. You're uploading it, telling Claude, this is what I think is good, this is my voice, and then it will mirror it back far better than if you just describe it with words. Another challenge is not updating it. This is something like with Claude Code is actually just a matter of like text. You just say, add these, copy and paste this I think is AI slop or something. Update my brand brain, and it can do that. And that's kind of like the nice benefit of when you are doing everything in the Claude Code environment. Another thing is context windows. That is something that is a little bit of a challenge. Is if you the more inputs, it requires more tokens, more memory. So if you can make it a little bit more precise, that and specificity might be better than like super long, because at some point you might exceed the value of conveying what your brand brain is. And then, yeah, I think just like doing things maybe thought without intention. So just copying and pasting, and then not improving, not like iterating and testing. So like where would you do this? Or I guess like the next steps now that you have this is if I wanted to go into, let's see, if I wanted to go into here, like now I have, this is the chat where I got my, the brand brain was created. Like now what would be most helpful here? Now that we have this, assume that this is part of our system prompt. This might be a nice time to understand, okay, our offer is XYZ. Let's create an email nurture sequence. Let's create a content strategy. Let's create a YouTube series. This is like where I think the fun part of having a fully up-to-date LLM, up-to-date in terms of like what you are looking for, what problems you're trying to solve, what you're trying to get out of it, is that you can use it almost as like a sparring partner and a conversation. So for example, if we were to say, help me create a LinkedIn series for the next 10 days to talk about the value of being on brand and not writing with AI slop. Kind of like that's not a great one, but let's just see what it is. But the point is that the context is now there, and so it can kind of like stretch the limits of things that we haven't quite thought about, but we just have this snippet of an idea. Like, all right, I want to do a LinkedIn series. What are some things? So again, this is like Opus 4.6, and one thing too is like if you do want to add extended thinking, that is supposed to increase the output, or the quality of the output. It might take a little bit longer, and if you are not on the max plan, you might hit your limit sooner. I am on a max plan. It's $200 a month, but I find it very valuable in terms of like the output and what I get. So anyway, we'll see how this comes through. But that was just an example of, now that you have it, what are the next steps and how can this actually be valuable? And I think the brainstorming element, and then once you have that, maybe you're adding that into your project settings, then just like, go to town and brainstorm as much as you can, and actually just use that now to create your blog content, or actually like execute on the things that might have been in your queue or task list. You can do now. Okay, so and then this is the last thing I'll mention, and I don't want to go too far beyond the scope of this, but another way that you could use this is if you've heard of Claude Skills. Claude Skills are basically like tasks for Claude to do, and so this is what I did in Claude Code, where I was like, this is essentially a skill where I say, do a brand brain create a brand brain for HubSpot or Intercom or whatever, you can make that a skill. And so this is a skill file that you can upload. And I'll show you quickly how to create this skill. If you go to settings, it's a little bit hidden actually, and you go to capabilities, then skills are here. Oh, actually, look at that. It moved to customize. So here is where you can actually just create the skills. You don't need to have anything more than literally like just telling Claude what you're looking to do. But the skill is I could just like upload that brain brand kit as a file, and then that becomes a skill. So anytime I want to, if I'm a content agency, for example, and I want to create this for a new client or even a prospect that I'm reaching out to, I can create this skill, and then it's as easy as like uploading the URL and my LinkedIn URL. So that's basically just like a shortcut, but it codifies everything going into it, and so it makes it a little bit easier. So you don't need, I mean, you could also share skills so it can extend these capabilities to others on your team. So yeah, create with Claude. That's where you might want to say like, I want to create a skill to do a brand analysis, to do an AEO, answer engine optimization analysis, whatever it is. Skills are really valuable, and then something to explore, I think, to kind of level up what you're getting out of Claude. So that was what I wanted to cover today. I think that this is like just, you know, the brand kit, brand brain is foundational and really important, and will unlock a lot more of what you can get with AI. But I think that the next step is actually acting on it and executing on it, and that's where Claude Code, I think, is going to be. I mean, it's really just at the very forefront of like marketers using it. Before, of course, it was for developers and technical people. Interestingly, Claude Code, the founder of Claude Code, I think his name is Boris Cherny, says that they have not written a line of code in the past year. It's all been Claude writing its own code. And I can see the same occurring soon for marketers, where marketers aren't actually writing their own content. It's more, they're just piecing together different agents or sub agents or tools, connectors, MCP connectors, and then it's kind of like managing these agents. And so we can see how that works. And I think that's why Claude Code is going to be incredibly important for marketers and a really important skill. So that's the course that I'm putting together now. This is just like the very beginning of, or like kind of that point of entry, I think, for getting the most out of Claude. But yeah, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just Gen Furukawa from Supermarketers. I'll make sure that you do get this this Notion document, which does have the, I think most importantly would be this complete prompt. And please do play with it, see what you get out of it and where you can make changes. This might not be perfect, but it can get you 80% of the way there. And then work with these banned words, because yeah, if we can remove AI slop from the internet, the world would be a better place. So yeah, thanks for watching. Are there any questions that I can answer or things that I can show? Oh, Tanya, I'm sorry, I did not see explore creation. I will do that.
Not a problem. I actually had a question related to skills, and I was wondering if Claude Code does self-improvisation based on feedback or based on how you're using it. It's does it go and improve on the skill, or is that something we go back and input into the skill?
Well, both. So without like direct feedback on what the feedback is, or without feedback
Yeah.
on what to improve or change, it won't do that. But once you say like, don't include these words, or don't don't have run-on sentences, it will do that. So that if we go to here, if I want to just like make a change, for example, to the brand brain, I can literally like just tell Claude Code make these changes, and then it would make those changes. So in that sense, it's guided by you, but it is completely flexible. And that I think that's the beauty of Claude Code, is that it's going to evolve and change as you see fit, and you're not really like stuck within these frameworks of like what a software might have, like different automation softwares.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. So Melinda, what's the difference between Claude Skills and adding instructions to a project? Is Claude Skills, I think, would be far more explicit. So you can actually just like, if we go here, you can call a skill by name, and like I have a PowerPoint skill. So use a PowerPoint. I think if I just say like create an image of a flow chart of content creation for B2B SaaS, for example. If I just do that like in general and add that, add instructions like you can do this, you can create images, I don't think it has the skill can be more specific, and also you can give the skill like the connections or the tools, the enablement to do that. For example, to create a PowerPoint is one skill, and if you're just adding that to an instruction, you can't add those connections, if that makes sense. You can't add those integrations or make those MCPs. I think that would be one of the main things, as well as being very specific that you upfront put the work into creating a Claude skill, and then you know that it will follow these like deterministic paths. But if it's in an instruction, then it's kind of like maybe competing with other tasks or inputs. But yeah, so just to get back to the skills, let's see, it's in wait, customizations. Okay, so one that is helpful, there are a bunch of default skills, but I think some of the more helpful ones might be like the skill creator. So in a very meta way, like, so these are like some of the default, the ones that you need to enable from Anthropic, but this will help you create the skill just with natural language, where you can think of like what it is that you're looking for, and then the skill creator skill can actually create that. So looking at the skills, the most important thing is going to be like the very first line, which is the description, because where I was saying it takes like context or time as well to go through the skills. If you don't invoke a skill specifically, the agent will look through just the description, and so that's where the description is kind of like the most important part for if you're not being specific and calling a very specific skill, to know that to use a skill. So yeah, if I hope that answers any questions that you might have. I will, like I said, I'll send this this Notion page out, and then please do share feedback. Tanya, explore creation. If you don't have Claude, let me know, because I'm happy to do it myself and send it to you. And yeah, I'll continue to put out some of these lightning lessons. You don't have Claude? Okay, I'll do it for you, and I'll send it to you. Yeah, I'm going to do more lightning lessons, kind of like covering Claude Code. But also, please do let me know, like, any challenges or questions that you have, kind of like in general. Happy to create lightning lessons around that, because I know the problems or questions that I have, but other marketers in this space are dealing with different things, which would be certainly interesting to learn about and try and solve. Yeah. So with that said, Melinda, Tanya, I really appreciate you stopping by, James and Omolu. And I'll be in touch. Please reach out if you have any questions, and you'll see this Notion in your inbox soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.